Okay. So I saw an article about an upcoming MMO that looked somewhat interesting called Reworld.
Oh, okay.
And it looked somewhat reminiscent of like Neverwinter Nights mixed with what was advertised for EverQuest Next,
Mm.
where you can basically create your own MMORPG using the Reworld game engine as like your template,
Mm.
where you could create your own races, your own classes, create your own towns and world, and basically I kind of equated what I was reading about it to like D&D, where with house rules.
Mm.
And it just looked interesting because it was like the epitome of user created content, and that's the whole game.
Right, right.
Which I always kind of figured it was bound to happen eventually.
Right. I mean, this has kind of been talked about quite a bit for a while now. People kind of having this dream of giving people the right tools and imagining that there's just this right set of tools that you can give people that would allow that unlock creativity and allow them to create their own MMOs. And like this is definitely not the first game to do that. There's been other ones. Oh, shoot, what was that? I should have looked. I should kind of forgot about the kind of there was another game that wanted to do it. They were going to publish a Firefly MMO even platform. Oh, let me look this up.
I was about to. Yeah, it sounds interesting.
But they wanted to do.
Pumpkin's asking Arcade. That doesn't sound.
No,
That's not
no.
what Arcade was going after. Let you figure it out.
Yeah.
I run around and kill shit. See, now look who's not prepared.
I know. I'm the worst.
No.
I'll just leave now. Let you handle the rest of yourself. Okay.
Okay, thanks. It was nice seeing everyone. Stop streaming.
Multiverse. It was called Multiverse.
Oh.
Back in the day. This is back in 2006. It looks like.
Oh my.
Yeah. This is like old. And so yeah, like the idea that they wanted to do kind of the same thing, like what sounds like this new company wanted to do. But they announced that they were going to do a Firefly MMO on their platform, which of course never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, like nobody really even, the game never really even came to or the platform never really even came to fruition.
Right.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it's it was like, okay, that's a nice idea, but nobody was bothered to this. Because the problem is, as much as people kind of want to believe that they can be good game developers, the reality is that the people are professionals. It's like it's like a lot of other kind of creative industries or kind of glamour industries. Like people kind of want to believe that they can just pick up a guitar and they can play as good as whatever current
Insert musician name here.
Right, exactly.
Or like they can, or they enjoy doodling, so therefore they
They
are
can,
an
yeah.
artist.
Right, right. Right, right.
There's quests over here.
Okay.
You have received a quest.
And so yeah, so you kind of get that attitude of game, like, and like the big thing, and this is one of the things I talk to a lot of people about when they talk about, when I tell them I'm a game developer. I kind of explain that, look, like making games is not the same as playing games.
Mm-hmm. Huge difference there.
And so yeah, and so you have kind of companies that want to do this type of thing, that want to make, kind of take advantage of kind of this desire of people to believe they could they kind of wanted to believe that they can make the coolest, the cool game. When the reality is, like it's a lot harder than you might think.
Right, they can give you some tools to do it, but then there's that, that argument that we've talked about of user friendliness versus power.
Mm-hmm.
So like, how powerful do they make the user tools to make their world?
Exactly, and that's a big issue, of course, is that it is exactly that. Like, how do you when you make a kind of a more interesting, when you make a powerful tool. I mean, kind of go back to EverQuest Next. That was one of the big problems they had, I think, was they wanted to make these like really powerful tools that game developers are used to, but then putting them in the hands of people, like you'd get some people that could create some amazing things, but on the other hand, it was potentially kind of tough for them to do so, for the kind of the normal person to pick it up. And so so it'll be interesting to see, and this type of thing, of course, has like existed since the early days of like text mods, like Diku mods, which are kind of the dominant, where you had Diku mods, which were, like you said, were kind of like were a popular type of mods. Were kind of one of the reasons they got popular is because they were one of the reasons they got popular is because they were very easy to manipulate, to adjust.
Mm-hmm.
And so when people kind of like when you had there were games that were a lot harder to adjust, the Diku mods, which I kind of preferred, but that required actual programming talent, whereas the Diku mods, the LP mods I preferred, required programming talent, but the Diku mods were basically and so it'll be interesting to see kind of like where they divide, where the dividing line. The other interesting thing, of course, is like
Oh, I just died.
Oh, what did you did?
I got surrounded.
Okay, don't get surrounded.
I was trying to do it good and I did it bad. Okay.
But the other interesting thing, since we talk a lot about like IP and ownership, especially with the indie people, who's going to own the platform? The other problem you run into with these type of things as well is, if you build for a specific platform, and then that platform goes out of business or goes away or whatnot, you generally kind of left high and dry.
Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure, like in the sense of ReWorld, they'll pull a we retain ownership of all player-made creations.
Right,
blah,
right.
blah, blah.
Right, and it's kind of a tough thing, is in general they'll probably want to exert as much ownership as they possibly can to, in order to kind of cover their ass. But then the flip side, what? Because from their point of view, they want to protect themselves from the people that are like, oh yeah, sure, I'm gonna totally make this game, and it's gonna be popular, it's gonna be kind of it's gonna be a big hit, and then of course then I abandon it, and then people got like a lot of Steam Greenlight stuff, a lot of stuff that Steam's kind of dealing with right now.
Mm-hmm.
What happens with early access when somebody's just like, yeah, I made my money, thanks.
Right. There's a game that I bought. It was like a tech demo. It was called Sword with Sauce.
Okay.
It was like an experimental. Have you seen Super Hot?
No.
It's like this experimental game that's like a time, like a physics puzzle game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, actually, I have seen that. Okay.
Whereas, as you move, the enemies move, but when you stop, the enemies stop, or time stops.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen Super Hot. Yeah. Something very similar to that.
Sword of Sauce has the same visual aesthetic as that.
Okay.
But it's like like you're like a ninja secret agent type thing, and you're trying to go through levels and beat all the guys in the level. It's very similar to Super Hot, but I just saw on the thing that they discontinued development on it after a bunch of YouTubers got it popular. YouTubers, played it on their channels and got it popular,
Right.
and this, that, and the other, and then all of a sudden they're not developing it anymore.
Right.
So,
Right.
Imagine, they got all these YouTubers to promote it and make it popular. People bought it to check it out for themselves.
Right. And when you start talking about an MMO, especially like these are big, complicated, difficult things to develop. Like for a while there, like everybody wanted to get into game development. Like, yeah, I'm gonna make the World of Warcraft killer, and it's like, that's cute, kid.
Right. You're adorable.
Right. It's like, okay, yeah, sure you are. But that didn't stop a lot of people from like trying to do that. From trying to.
Rift was said to be the big WoW killer. Then, God, I don't even remember all the WoW killer attempts.
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much every major game was, trying to kind of dethrone WoW, and that was kind of, but that was kind of the idiom of the time. Like, people wanted to, people kind of sold investors on this idea of, we can do what they did, only bigger and better and badder.
Firefall. Rip Firefall. But no, like Kiersey is right. The only game that can kill WoW is WoW.
Right. Well, I mean, and the problem, of course, is and to get into a long discussion about like how terrible capitalism here is. It's like it, like, a lot of MMOs are profitable. Like even my game Meridian 59 was not like super wildly profitable, but I made decent money, and if it kept myself fed, kept rent paid for a while. But I'm not gonna say that it was an easy thing, but but still, like, we were making a decent amount of money, and so and we didn't have that many people. We didn't have that many subscribers to the game. The game was, we kept the game pretty modest size, a couple thousand people, so if even if you're able to get, say, 100,000 people, you can make some pretty serious money off of that.
Right.
If you can manage to keep your expenses reasonable.
And that's the important word, reasonable.
Right. Well, I mean, the problem comes, from a business point of view, comes in when you're expecting WoW type numbers. You're expecting millions of people and you get hundreds of thousands.
Right.
I mean, and this is kind of like one of the advantages that I think Eve really enjoyed, is that they were able to kind of get through that initial trying period pretty well, because things kind of worked out well for them. Whereas a lot of other games, when they if they're not a big success immediately, or if they're aiming for WoW type numbers and they don't get it, usually they can't, like a lot of the games can't adjust that well to back off of it.
Right, and that's like why Final Fantasy XIV is such a standout recovery, because they flopped out first, but they were able to bring it back.
Well, and this goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning, where you have when you start talking about larger companies have that advantage, where they have the advantage of Square Enix had a lot of other games that basically to fall back on. They had Tomb Raider series and whatnot. So even though Final Fantasy XIV was initially a flop, they still were able to kind of come back and get you back off a second. Let me kill something. I have a wand that gets enhanced if I kill 25 things. I'm up to 24, so.
Fine.
I know. Did you murderize everything though?
Over here. I haven't been over west though.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, hold on a second. Let's see what. Oh, okay. Interesting. So I just basically gave it another enchantment. I have 8% chance to execute on this wand, which is all interesting.
So, getting back on topic.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm sitting here reading. Where is the topic? Talking about Reworld. The content that the players make is meaningful to them.
Right.
But, someone who doesn't care about their niche subject is...
Right. So I might, I could come in and, potentially make the
Firefly MMO.
Right. But people with taste that don't like Firefly might say, well, this isn't a good game. Oh yeah.
Oh.
How's that?
Oh, do we need to have a conversation?
I'm just gonna say Firefly was horrifically overrated.
Okay, I've never seen it personally.
I mean, it's not terrible, but it gets a lot more love. It was a very good show.
Are you saying it got canceled for a reason?
Yes, I'm saying it got canceled for a reason.
Dang.
It was nowhere near as popular as people, I mean, it inspired very rabid fans, which, I mean, as a creative person, like, I I want very rabid and excited fans for my project.
Are you just trying to create controversy to make this podcast more popular?
I mean, is it working?
I hope so.
Please, if you disagree, share with your friends. Get them on here to yell at us.
Yeah, I'll take it. Sure, why not? Psychochild created loot boxes. I knew it. Oh my goodness.
So, oh, actually, let's go back this way because I think I didn't get the 1 star over here. Yeah, I mean, DeJaro says that, you know, Firefly had the same popularity as the first season of Star Trek: The Original Series, but I assume you mean, are you talking about original series or are you talking about Next Generation there, DeJaro?
Because, I mean, the original series, when it aired, if I remember correctly, wasn't
it was
that big.
No, it kind of failed, and it took a letter writing campaign actually in order to save it, and it got, you know, basically it obviously kind of grew in popularity since then. So
yeah, I actually watched a document about like the development of Star Trek, and it's kind of a painful thing for them to do.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of blazed some trails, you know, like yeah, you know, big. I have a lot of respect for Roddenberry for what he tried to do, but yeah, like the first season of Star Trek was not very popular at all, and they, you know, it took a letter writing campaign for people to get them to not cancel it.
And the first 2 seasons of Next Generation were not that big either.
Right. Because, I mean, I think even hardcore Star Trek fans kind of admit that the first season of Next Generation was kind of they really kind of were trying to find their way there.
Right. We're off topic, but
Yeah. It's interesting.
A lot of what I've read about that was actually, it was a lot of Roddenberry. We missed a star for this quest.
Yeah, well, but we have enough stars for the.
Oh, do I only need
to turn in the quest? I think that's another quest.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kirsten has a question. I always gotta wonder, when does a publisher realize it's time to stop milking a franchise? Is there some kind of sales number or limit that decides?
I think it's basically, you know, it's like any other business decision. You know, a company has X amount of dollars to invest in stuff. If I take, you know, 10% of that X and I can put it over here into a franchise I know will sell a certain amount, you know, and you know, if that's going to give me the Y% return on investment, whereas this thing over here is going to give me Z% to return on investment, I have to see, is it Y or Z higher? You know, that's basically how businesses work. If a fiduciary responsibility to invest their resources to maximize profit. The way it gets complicated though is like when you have a franchise, or like a game that basically you can kind of release every year, like, you know, a lot of sports franchises, the amount of sales you have can be almost predictable within certain margins of error. So, you know, like if you're EA and you're looking at, well, we have, you know, so many millions of dollars to invest into a game, we can either put it into the next Madden or we can go do something completely unexplored. They're going to probably lean toward Madden because they can project how much money a Madden game is going to make. And they'll, you know, like it has a decent return on investment. Whereas, you know, when you create something new, you know, keep in mind EA like released The Sims. The Sims was a huge hit, a surprising hit, amazing, huge amount of money for them. But it was like really kind of like not something they anticipated. And so but like, EA does release kind of smaller games. They don't necessarily throw a whole lot of marketing behind to see if they can find another equivalent of The Sims, where it's kind of like what in a way it's a little bit like reality TV, or kind of like for a while there the movies that were considered like found footage movies, like the Blair Witch Project. If they can throw a small amount of money in there and then see if it becomes a huge hit and then invest in it later, that's amazing. But they're not necessarily going to put in an amount of money equivalent to a Madden franchise into a game and expect that to pay the bills. They're going to put that money into something safe and secure. They're going to invest a smaller amount of money into something more what they view as more risky, and then they're going to potentially looking for hits. And so basically what that does is it basically means that Madden kind of fuels their, the franchise like Madden fuels their exploration into other types of games.